Let me get out of this mask here. I am Dr. S.G. Carthel, and you are at Murray State University's African American Read-In for 2022. We appreciate everybody who have tuned in so far and those that will tune in later on. Today we'll be hearing some excerpts and quotations from African American authors, and so we hope that you will enjoy this offering that we are bringing today. Before we get started, I want to share, today you'll be hearing from me. I will be reading from one of my favorite books, African American Quotations, and it's a great book full of quotations from many African Americans throughout history and current time. It was written by Richard Newman and has a foreword by Julian Bond. And I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Bond some years ago when he came to speak at UT Martin, and I was invited to meet him and attend his lecture, and it was a life-changing experience for me. And so I want to start today by reading the foreword to this book that was written by Mr. Bond, Mr. Julian Bond, and then we will bring on our first reader for today. So the foreword goes like this: as I write 8 books of quotations, sit handily on the shelf by my side, a ready reference for the countless occasions when someone else's words say better than I can say what I once said. But none of the 8 quotations, as many quotes from as many sources, does in this volume. In other words, this book has way more sources than he had at that time. My favorite quotation, and this is Julian Bond's favorite quotation, is Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. But choosing a favorite is like choosing among one's children. Each is precious. This collection of over 2,500 quotations will contain many of your favorites and will help provide the exact quotation to fit the right occasion. More importantly, this collection will acquaint the reader with a multitude of adages and aphorisms, maxims, motto quotes, proverbs, and sayings from a large number of African Americans. Some of those who are quoted are well known. Others will be introduced to the reader for the first time and should inspire further inquiry into the lives and times of the women and men who so eloquently and frequently so simply summed up a thought or reflection in a few words. Here a multitude speaks on a multitude of subjects, sharing opinions and framing ideas. Here the famous and the lesser known bring the values they learned from living Black to the written and spoken word. Here the reader has an opportunity to learn from the great diversity of Black opinion and thought. As Ralph Ellison says in these pages, words are your business, boy, not the word. Words are everything. The key to the rock, the answer to the question. This collection will be invaluable to the scholar, the writer, or curious reader. And he said, you can quote me. Julian Bond, NAACP chairman at the time. Okay, so that's the foreword to the book I'll be reading from frequently during this African American Read-In. And our first reader comes to us as Tatiana Timmons, I'm sorry, I called her Simmons, it's Timmons. And she is a freshman engineering major from the Louisville area, and she is here to share with us something special. All right.
All right, so today I'll be reading one of my favorite poems from Maya Angelou. It's called Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and just like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Do you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
Trod me in the very dirt, but still
Bringing
like
the gifts
dust.
that my ancestors gave,
I'll rise.
I am the dream and the
Does
hope.
my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high. Still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
Let me know when I'm ready. Okay, next we have from Black Student Council, Black Student Council's president, Marquise Merriweather, is going to come at this time with a reading. So get ready. Thank you.
A historical figure that has had an impact in sports is Jack Johnson. In U.S. history, boxing was the most popular sport until the 1960s, when other sports started gaining popularity. Jack Johnson was a boxer from 1897 to 1931. He is the first ever African American boxer to win the heavyweight championship of the world. What it meant to be championship of the world in boxing was incredible. It meant you were the top of the world in combat. However, the heavyweight class, being the champion, meant you were number one in the world. Because at that point, not even champions in other weight classes can compete with the heavyweight one. In America, there were problems with racism. Blacks were not valued as equal to that of whites. Therefore, in boxing, blacks were not able to compete with whites. There would be separate leagues for them. When blacks would fight other blacks, sometimes the fight wouldn't even be counted on their records. In the event where they did compete with whites, they weren't title matches. The only way to gain a title shot was to fight title contenders, who were white men. If blacks weren't allowed an opportunity, there would never been a black champion. Jack Johnson was an impressive and massive fighter that was dominating his competition. There were rumors going around stating that he may be the true best in the world. There was so much to talk that the champion just allowed Johnson to gain a title shot. If he beat a few title contenders, then he could earn a title shot. Johnson bested all of those men, and the champion gave Johnson a shot. This was very pivotal in sports because it was the first time an African American was allowed an opportunity for the most coveted title in the world. If Johnson would have lost, he may not have gotten another opportunity, and blacks also wouldn't have gained another opportunity in many other sports. They knew that if Johnson would have won, then America would be represented with an African American as champion. As unacceptable as it seemed, Johnson fought against the champion and defeated him. He was now world champion. What this meant was that blacks were considered important in the popular sport of boxing. It paved the way for historical figures such as Joe Louis, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, and many other athletes. Jack Johnson finished his career with 93 total fights, 54 wins, 11 losses, 7 draws, and 21 were not on record. He was the first ever African American heavyweight champion and held the title for 7 years.
They love to see black men in chains. From the transatlantic slave trade to modern day mass incarceration, the old and the new Jim Crow remain. They love the normalization of our oppression and the way the system keeps the oppressed so tame. They love when Sam Cooke sings about change. So as long as words don't manifest to things, they love the way we wait for change, the way we beg for change, the way we slave 60 hours in a week for change, the way we rob, steal, and kill for change. They love our perpetual state of poverty. They love the way we sell our souls for cheese, the way we love the trap, the way we jig and bleed to the beats of gangster rap. They love Lil Wayne and 2 Chainz, both mental and physical. They love to see black men in 2 Chainz. They love and hip-hop, especially when hip-hop keeps black bodies twerking and black minds deranged. They love our irony, the way we are economically crippled, that we raise every payday to feed the economy. They love our hyper-materialism and hyper-consumerism. They hate that the black man has that Mansa Musa in him. So they love to see black men in chains, but they hate to see black men as kings. They hate the hostility of El Hajj Malik Shabazz, but they love to quote Dr. King. They love Beyonce. Until Beyonce reverberated her people's pains, they hated formation. They hated when we are informed. They love to see black men in formation up until the Black Panthers reign. Now they love to see black men in formation, but only in basketball games. They love to pack stadiums and clap for LeBron James, but the intellectual prowess of Langston drove them insane. They love to feed blacks misinformation, and they hate when our leaders make it plain, because they love to see black men in bondage. And what they love most is when a black man is slain.
What's your major? Okay, we're back, and our next reader is Alexia Lemus. She is one of our English and philosophy majors, reading and writing majors. Let me get that right. No, what is it? You know what? I'm getting it all screwed up. Creative writing major, and Alexia is a sophomore from Murray, Kentucky, and she's going to come at this time with a reading.
A poem on love by James A. Baldwin. Love does not begin and end the way we seem to think it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is growing up. Thank you.
To the microphone.
Hey, Black Child by County Color. Hey, Black Child, do you know who you are? Who you really are? Do you know you can be where you want to be if you try to be what you can be? Hey, Black Child, do you know where you're going? Where you're really going? Do you know you can learn what you want to learn if you try to learn what you can learn? Hey, Black Child, do you know you are strong? I mean really strong? Do you know you can do what you want to do if you try to do what you can do? Hey, Black Child, be what you can be, learn what you must learn, do what you can do, and tomorrow your nation will be what you want it to be.
Nice job.
I'm going to read, as I had previously stated, from African American Quotations by Richard Newman with foreword by Julian Bond. And I'm going to start with some of the quotations that deal with achievement. And as we know, we're located here. We're doing this read-in from the Dr. Marvin E. Mills Multicultural Center. And the motto or the mantra for the Mills Center is leadership by example, service through sacrifice. And Dr. Mills often said leadership and excellence is not by accident. And so achievement is not accidental, just like leadership is not accidental. So these are some quotes here. There's about 19 of them I'm going to read that deal with achievement. So here's the first one. I never doubted my ability, but when you hear all your life you're inferior, it makes you wonder if the other group has something you've never seen before. If they do, I'm still looking for it. That was Hank Aaron, 1934, and of course, those who don't know, he was a famous baseball star who held the home run hitting record for many, many years. I'm so fast, I could hit you before God gets the news. That was Muhammad Ali, Louisville's own 1942 boxing champion. He wasn't a boxing champion in 1942, he was born in 1942, but this was when he made that quote during the height of his career. I don't feel that I opened the door. I've never been a great mover and shaker of the earth. I think that those who came before me deserve a great deal of credit. That was Marian Anderson, the singer. Whatever the white man has done, we have done, and done better. Mary Bethune, who has a school named after her, and she was lived between 1897 and 1993, and she was a singer as well. A negative attitude is a true handicap. That was by Senator Bradley, the mother of Mayor Thomas Bradley, who was a well-known mayor in California. To struggle and battle and overcome and absolutely defeat every force designed against us is the only way to achieve. That was by Nanny Burroughs. She was an activist and lived from 1879 to 1961. There is a use for almost everything. And for those of us that are hoarders and keep stuff and don't want to throw stuff away, we probably really buy into this quote. But that was by George Washington Carver, who was a famous inventor. You are not judged by the height you have risen, but from the depths you have climbed. I'm going to read that again. You are not judged by the height you have risen, but from the depths that you have climbed. That was Frederick Douglass, 1887, 1895, abolitionist and autobiographer. All of us may not live to see the higher accomplishments of an African empire, so strong and powerful as to compel the respect of mankind. But we in our lifetime can do so work and act as to make the dream a possibility within another within another generation. That was Marcus Garvey. He lived from 1887 to 1940. He was a nationalist leader. And that ties into the notion that you may plant the seed, you may water it, but you may not actually see it grow. But that doesn't mean you don't plant the seed. That's my quote. All right. No matter what accomplishments you make, somebody helps you. Aletha Gibson, tennis champion. Our decision is to where we have never been. Our destination is to where we have never been before. I'll say that again. Our destination is where we have never been before. That was by Peter J. Gromes, and he was a minister. The burden of being black is that you have to be superior just to be equal. But the glory of it is that once you achieve, you have achieved indeed. That was Jesse Jackson, minister and civil rights activist. I never intended to become a run-of-the-mill person. That was Barbara Jordan. She lived from 1936 to 1996. She was a lawyer and a U.S. congressperson. I made most of my ability, and I did the best with my title. And this was Joe Louis, boxing champion, 1914, 1981. You have the ability, now apply yourself. That was by Benjamin Mays, 1895, 1984. He was an educator. And that's important because here at Murray State University, we try to help students develop those abilities. All we ask you to do is to apply it. The many of us who attain what we may and forget who helped us along the line, we've got to remember that there are so many others to pull along the way. The further they go, the further we all go. That was Jackie Robinson, 1919, 1972, baseball star. We start with gifts. Merit comes from what we make of them. Jean Tomer, 1894, 1967, was a novelist. We all have ability. The difference is how we use it. I like that one. We all have ability, but the difference is how we use it. That was Stevie Wonder. And we know Stevie Wonder is a famous singer and activist. And finally, our ability to create has outreached our ability to use wisely the products of our inventions. Our ability to create has outreached our ability to wisely use the products of our creations. Now, this was Whitney M. Young, Jr., 1921, 1971 civil rights activist. That kind of reminds me of social media. We've invented it, but boy, do we have problems trying to manage that. So these are famous quotes and some not so famous quotes, but very powerful quotes dealing with achievement. I'll be back a little later on to talk about some other categories. But at this time, I want to take a short break and show you a short video.
Someone asked me, what does history sound like? I said, history sounds like 9 months, like birth of a new life, like a soft whisper over a cradle, like a sweet melody over a tight beat. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. History sounds like Ella, like jazz, even when we're beaten black and bruised, bats bent back, barely breathing. History still sounds like the blues, like Harlem, like Duke, like Marcus, W.E. Du Bois, Langston, Mamie Smith, like survival, like hums, bongos, like the clicking of a railroad track. It sounds like old Negro spirituals, celebration in safe houses. It sounds like Harriet's underground maps to a freedom land where freedom ain't so free. It sounds like 1913 and everything in between, the beats of women marching, the banging of a glass ceiling. We walk with shards on our knuckles and in between our fists, so keep your glass slipper. A woman not supposed to do no heavy lifting. We belong in the kitchen, in the House, in the Senate, in the Oval Office. History sounds a lot like Michelle, like Shirley, on Bossed and on Bought. Sometimes history sounds like a silent moving powerhouse. It sounds like the clipping of Jim Crow's wings. It sounds like Dr. Martin Luther King, like Booker T. Washington, like the unsung heroes we don't hear much about. She sounds like Baker, Clark, Bates, black women who are out of this world but stay hidden behind chalkboards. These figures are still undercalculated. History sounds like Mansa Musa, like Benjamin Papp, like the start of new homes, new things, like a fresh crunch, like George Crumb. Sometimes we forget that we are history days. We wake up and don't listen to the history within us days, where little black boys and girls don't listen to the magic pumping through their veins. Here Kalichi, here Christine, here Azid. The 30 under 30 history sounds a lot like you, the beautiful, black, and gifted you.
Okay, next we have Deontay Turnley, who is the coordinator for retention and multicultural programming for the Office of Multicultural Initiatives, and he's going to come at this time with a reading.
Hello everyone, my name is Deontay Turnley, and today I'll be reading a poem by Terrence Hayes titled, "We Should Make a Documentary About Spades." This poem was written by contemporary American poet Terrence Hayes, and this is an imaginary piece that explores the theme of racism and implicit comments on the history of spades. And here's all we need: a card deck, quartets of sun people of the sort found in black college dormitories, some vintage music, indiscriminate spirits, fried chicken, some paper, a writing utensil, and a bottomless Saturday. We should explore the origins of a derogatory word like spade, as well as the word for feeling alone in polite company, and also the implications of calling someone who is not your brother or sister, brother or sister. So little is known of our past, we can imagine damn near anything. When I say maybe slaves held spades tournaments on the anti-cruise ships bound for the colonies, you say when our ancestors were cooped on those ships, they were not yet slaves. Our groundbreaking film should begin with a low-lit den in the deep South and the deep-fried voice of somebody's grandmother holding smoke in her mouth as she says, "The two of diamonds trumps the two of spades in my house." And at some point, someone should tell the story where Jesus and the devil are spades partners traveling the jukes of joints of the 1930s. We could interview my Uncle Junior and definitely your skinny cousin Mary and any black man sitting at a card table wearing shades. Who do you suppose would win if Booker T and MLK were matched against Du Bois and Malcolm X in a game of spades? You say you don't talk across the table. Pay attention to the suits being played. The object of the game is to communicate invisibly with your teammate. I should concentrate. Do you suppose we are here because we are lonely in some acute, desporified way? This should be explored in our film about spades, because it's one of the ways I'm still learning what it is to be black. Tonight I'm ready to master spades. Four players bid a number of books. Each team adds the bids of the two partners, and the total is the number of books that the team must try to win. Is that not right? This is a game that tests the boundaries between mathematics and magic, if you ask me. A bid must be intuitive like the itchiness of your upper lip before you sip strange whiskey. My mother did not drink, which is how I knew something was wrong with her, but she held a dry spot at the table when couples came to play. It's a scene from my history, but this probably should not be mentioned in our documentary about spades. Renege is akin to the word for shame you feel watching someone else's humiliation. Slapping a card down must be as dramatic as hitting the face of a drum with the palm, not hitting the face of a drum with a drumstick. You say there must be the sort of outrage induced by liquor, trash talk, and poor strategy, but it'll fade, the way a watermark left on a table by a cold glass fades. I suspect winning this sort of game makes you feel less godly. I'm good and ready for whoever we're playing against tonight. I'm trying to imagine our enemy. I know you are not my enemy. You say there are no enemies in spades. Spades is a game our enemy does not play. Thank you.
Growing up as a kid, I hated my dark skin. And if I could be transparent, even now as a grown woman, I have to constantly reprogram my thinking. Years of being told I was not the standard for beauty, but see, that was a lie. Which is why I chose to rewrite my own narrative. Dear Black girl, we are warriors whose spirits can't be crushed. We speak up when told we're too much. We forgive when our Black men dismiss, degrade, and can't see that we are not the ugly ducklings, but the swan princess, the Nubian goddess, the reflection of our ancestors, the made in his image. When society tries to pin light versus dark skin, we remind them that every shade of chocolate is divinely crafted. Black girl magic is more than a hashtag. Yes. It is a movement, a statement like Maxine Waters claiming our power, moving through this world unapologetically, degree holding with our heads held high, melanin moisturized, big hips, thick thighs, hair free and natural, wrapped in a protective style. Dear black girl, you better recognize we are the trailblazers. Everybody wants to be us.
Come on, please, come on.
So to all my sisters, as we continue this process of loving our skin, start with this. Look at yourself in the mirror. This is me, the chocolate beauty, deserving and saying, I am queen. Dear black girl, know that you are everything.
That's what I'm talking about.
My name is Marquise Merriweather, and I'm the president of Black Student Council. And I'm going to be reading an interview I did with a professional athlete. Nathan Hobbs Jr. is from Louisville, Kentucky, and attended Louisville Male High School. He played college for the University of Illinois. He is currently a rookie cornerback in the NFL for the Las Vegas Raiders. Mr. Hobbs experienced trauma early in his life. His father passed away when he was just 13 years old. Being the oldest of 3 siblings, he had to become mature at a young age. The amount of responsibility that came with it was very much. Sports were the only thing that held his mentality intact. The amount of pressure that he was under by being the oldest made him want to do his best every single play. Mr. Hobbs was a 3-sport athlete excelling in basketball, football, and track. He first learned his fundamentals and intangibles before anything, no matter the sport. He had an edge to not let the next man have an advantage. Staying after practices to do extra weightlifting, to build his body, eating the right food to stay in top shape, and getting more reps and drills were things that he focused on. Every single day was a day to better himself. He felt that any day off was a day wasted. The results panned out, and he was vastly superior in his skill, speed, and strength, as well as IQ compared to his opponents and teammates in high school. The later he got in high school, towards his senior year, he increased his work ethic. He focused his sports on track and football. As a sophomore on the high school team ranked 25th in the nation, he was a starter on both offense and defense. His team eventually ended up winning the state championship in his junior season. And his track team finished first overall, but in one season. During the off-season, he participated in football camps to showcase his skills. It allowed him to be a top recruit for the University of Illinois. He received a full scholarship to play football at Illinois as a cornerback. He was the first in his family to attend college. It was all the better that his family didn't have to come too much out of pocket for his education. He started his freshman season and never looked back. Playing Big Ten football is a very big deal in the college football world. Even though his team wasn't a powerhouse, he played against schools who were. When NFL scouts came to watch stars from opposing team, they were also introduced to his skills at his position. Through 4 long years of college, he finally was drafted into the NFL in the 6th round by the Las Vegas Raiders. Nathan Hobbs found what it took to become an NFL player through consistent hard work, the urgency from the responsibility, and persistence on the field. He was able to become the player he always dreamed of. But more importantly, the family member he always dreamed of. His mother, siblings, and spiritually his father are all proud of him.
I heard he was 14.
Heard he wasn't from around here.
Heard he had eyes like mine.
Heard he was known for being mischievous.
He was mentioned quite a bit in the paper.
You ever seen this boy before?
We ever see him around?
Heard he was visiting family. I wish I could put a face to that name.
Those black boys do tend to get themselves into trouble.
We do whatever we can to stay out of trouble.
Well, his mama should have warned him.
Getting lost after sundown is a death sentence. We won't rise again the next day.
They say he was found weighted in water.
Body wrinkled and face swollen.
The river doesn't look as blue.
Boys like us are always thought of as pollution. More color in the currents.
A body of water became little. They say he settled to the surface like erosion.
Don't we always look best as fossils? Like dead fish? What was it they did again?
His look was probably arrogant. Probably instilled itself between porcelain skin and a dress scene.
Did he become a target for a wandering eye? Or wandering too far? Didn't his mama warn him about looking the wrong direction?
About looking too confidently in our direction, that he should learn to control his glance?
That the only thing his eyes should have flirted with
was the ground he'd be buried in.
Was his whistle too comfortable in this lethal wind?
Didn't he know how many things sway in it that look just like him?
That look just like us. Mississippi is an abusive mother to black children.
Engaged to a Jim Crow kind of man.
Our hands don't hesitate to suffocate brown skin. Choked out the last of his small voice. Tied him up in the back of a pickup truck. Like he was cattle waiting to be slaughtered.
Do you think they drove down our road?
Do you think we're destined to go down this road?
Reports say they gouged his eye out.
Like a pitchfork clawing at a haystack.
Cocked a shotgun to his head.
While foaming at the mouth as his brain tissue stained the evening scarlet. Beat his face till
his whistle became a faint tune of torture.
Beat his face till even God couldn't recognize his child.
They beat his face till
their knuckles numbed against the skull.
His color smeared the southern soil.
His rigor mortis like vomit.
Triggering a potent kind of gag reflex. Black boys need to get used to that kind of smell.
It's not as if we can get away from it. We're always living with it.
We're always dealing with it. Melanin makes such a mess.
Bloodstains are too difficult to clean. They pushed the limit of our pigment, wrapped the cotton gin around his neck.
They made him an anchor
to remind us of the weight we carry.
The black burden has always been so heavy. I hope he learned his lesson.
I hope this won't be our fate.
It'd be foolish to make the same mistake twice, so be a lasting silence, won't he?
We know silence all too well, don't we? Don't we? Look how quiet white folks get when a black boy is hushed. The sins of white men know too many colored graves. Our mothers crying over hollow caskets. Emmett won't be the last name to settle on our tongues like sediment. Emmett won't be the last name to dissolve from our mouths. Colored skies repeat death like God has a stutter. We won't let your death go unsung.
Black boy swinging in the dead of night.
You were 14. You had eyes like mine. Us black boys are more than dirt beneath tombstones, more than residue. We know you won't be the last of us, just one of many. A soldier of an army that knows no surrender. We will fight, Emmett, till we can rise again the next day.
Into the light of the dark black night.
Up next, we'll have Heather Red, who is the Minority Graduate Fellow for the Office of Multicultural Initiatives.
Hi, so my name is Heather Red, and I will be reading a poem by Maya Angelou called Life Doesn't Frighten Me. Shadows on the wall, noises down the hall, life doesn't frighten me at all. Bad dogs barking loud, big ghosts in the cloud, life doesn't frighten me at all. Mean old Mother Goose, lions on the loose, they don't frighten me at all. Dragons breathing flame on my counterpane, that doesn't frighten me at all. I go boo, make them shoo. I make fun, way they run. I won't cry, so they fly. I just smile, they go wild. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Tough guys fight, all alone at night. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Panthers in the park, strangers in the dark. No, they don't frighten me at all. That new classroom where the boys all pull my hair, kissy little girls with their hair in curls, they don't frighten me at all. Don't show me frogs and snakes and listen for my scream. If I'm afraid at all, it's only in my dreams. I've got a magic charm that I keep up my sleeve. I can walk the ocean floor and never have to breathe. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Not at all. Not at all. Life doesn't frighten me at all. Thank you.
We pledge allegiance to your flag of the United States of America and to your republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for who? For you? For some? Not for us, not for our people, so please stop saying we equal with your flag of red, white, and blue in one hand. You beat us until we're black and blue with the other, beat us until we're none, beat us until we can't walk straight, then you put us in chains if we lucky. But for the ones of us who aren't so lucky, you tell us to put our hands up as some type of sick tribute to your privilege, and then you pull the trigger into our bodies laid down on your ground, pull the trigger until your clip is empty, pull the trigger until we make your evening news, and then when our children cry, we have to look our children in the eyes and tell them that they have to be cautious, that when they walk your streets, they have to do so in fear, that they have to spend an entirety of their life looking over their shoulder, because you will hunt them down and you will bury them, either in a prison system that aims to disenfranchise them or the dirt beneath their feet. And this is all because of that same racism that you love to say no longer exists. But we all know that same racism is the reason that when we want to put a hood on, we resist. The reason that when we go to get these jobs, we're dismissed at the door. The reason that when we go to shop, we're watched in your stores. That racism is the reason that us saying your Pledge of Allegiance feels a lot like a root canal or a whip's impact against our flesh or a baton to our head or a bullet in our back or tear gas at a Black Lives Matter protest. That racism is the reason that 3 women clenched their purses as I walked through the entrance of this very building. It hurts that I have to remember that the system I was born into is built to work against me. Hurts that I have to remember. Hurts that I have to remember. Hurts that I have to... Hurts that I actually have to remember that you will happily invest more money into the preservation of wildlife than you ever will into the preservation of black life. Let me ask y'all a question. When y'all turn on your TVs and witness another black body laid out on your concrete, what do y'all see? Another murder? Another sad story? Another funeral? Do you see the aftermath? I see another child that lost their father, another single woman trying to raise a man, another broken home which leads to another child that grows up and suffers the same fate as their father, which means another black woman that outlives her adolescent son. This country practices a culture that lacks equal rights for blacks, and we love to say that black don't crack. Meanwhile, y'all shatter our melanin like glass. My back breaks for everybody you lay at our feet, for every memory I try to erase within your war zones. Late nights reveal that my PTSD has found its way to the surface. And my hate for this country reminds me that I'm far from patriotic, so it's a little ironic that I pledge allegiance to your flag of the United States of America and to your republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for who?
We won't need it. We're going to take them. After I get done. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to read on some quotes on a subject that some of us that may be watching are a little older and will understand this term, affirmative action. And as we know, we have kind of went from affirmative action to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that path along the way took us through multiculturalism and intercultural, a lot of different directions we went to get us to what we term as DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. But I'm going to read a little bit from a time when the term of the day, the issue as it related to diversity, equity, and inclusion was titled affirmative action. So these are just quotes from some key folks at the time. And I will mention that some of these quotes in here are about African American quotations. This particular first one is not an African American, but it is significant of who they were and the quote that they made. So I'm going to read it here now. Affirmative action. Government may take race into account when it acts not to demean or insult any racial group, but to remedy any disadvantages cast on minorities by past racial prejudice. Meanings, but no remedy, I'm sorry, I read that wrong, but no remedy to disadvantages cast on minorities by past racial prejudice. So I'll read that one more time so we get that right. Government may take race into account when it acts not to demean or insult any racial group, but to remedy any disadvantages cast on minorities by past racial prejudice. In other words, we're not doing that. That was William J. Brennan, U.S. Supreme Court Justice. You have to distinguish between means and ends. What's important here is the end, diversity. Affirmative action is just one means to that end. Albert Carsell, UCLA Chancellor. Discrimination has a way of perpetuating itself, albeit and unintentionally, because the resulting inequalities make new opportunities less accessible. That was Frank E. Coffin. White Anglo-Saxon males may never have felt inferior as a result of their centuries of affirmative action and quotas in jobs from which Jews, racial minorities, and women were excluded, and too often still are. It sounds relevant right now. Marion Wright Elderman, Children Defense Fund official. I would never pull up the ladder that helped me climb out of racial poverty. I would never pull up the ladder, in other words, not allowing another person to come up that ladder, that helped me climb out of racial poverty. That was Brian Fair, author of Notes of a Racial Caste Baby. I don't know if, and that's President Clinton, was interested in reminding people of the disparities that we have in this country that were caused by race and class. It's unfortunate because I think we need more affirmative action, not less affirmative action. That was Henry Louis Gates, scholar and critic. Affirmative action is neither the real problem nor the whole solution. The challenge for public education is to rethink how they admit everyone. And this is talking about admissions now. And that was Lonnie Gonnier, and she was a law professor. When the government, by public policy, kept you out, the government has a responsibility by public policy to bring you in. And it needs to be just as intentional about including you as it was about excluding you. That was Joseph Lowery, civil rights activist. It must be remembered that during most of the past 200 years, the Constitution, as interpreted by the court, did not prohibit the most ingenious and persuasive forms of discrimination against the Negro. Now, when the state acts to remedy the effects of that legacy of discrimination, I cannot believe that the same Constitution stands as a barrier. That was Thurgood Marshall, U.S. Supreme Court Justice. I will never forget that I became chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff because of the, and it says Massachusetts 54th Regiment in the Civil War. I was not the first who was qualified, and I was not the first who had the potential. I was the first to come along after the government had secured our right to equal treatment and affirmative action. So I could be measured by my performance and not by the color of my skin. And that was Colin Powell, U.S. General. We have seen what the preference system that has been in place for 250 years has done to us. It is not appropriate for us to use affirmative action to get our youngsters in the pool. That was, again, Colin Powell. There is still a great deal of resistance to the election of black office seekers by whites on account of race. This voting discrimination against black candidates, I argue, is discernible, specific, purposeful, and contemporary, and for which remedial action is warranted. The limitations of other policy alternatives require that the Supreme Court, and indeed the nation, rethink the permissibility of race-based voting districts. That was Keith W. Reeves, political scientist. And that's really important now as we are going in this era of redistricting that is happening right now. It has been 30 years basically since many minority students, African American, Native American, Latinos, and others have had serious access to most American institutions of higher education. 30 years after 300 years of non-access, and 30 years is supposed to be enough for minorities to catch up and achieve full equality of opportunity. That was Neil L. Runstein, an educator. That was his quote. But for affirmative action laws, God knows where I would be today. Clarence Thomas, U.S. Supreme Court Justice. If you have two people running in a mile race, a track, and one has a ball and chain tied around his leg for 3 laps, you can't take the ball and chain off for the final lap and still expect him to win. It's Frank Watkins. That's a great quote. And the last one is, the rules may be colorblind, but people are not. Patricia Williams, law professor. We're going to take about a 5-minute break here, and we'll be back in about 5 minutes with some more of the African American read-in from Murray State University.
Hi, my name's Alexia Lemus, and I'll be reading from African American Quotations. African art is an attempt to capture the energy and essence of a thing. James Baldwin, writer and activist. All art is a kind of confession more or less oblique. James Baldwin, writer and activist. Great art can also be created out of love. James Baldwin, writer and activist. Folkway is the base of art. Tony Cade Bambara. Art is a moral power, revealing to us a glimpse of the absolute ideal of perfect harmony. Edward Mitchell Bannister. Art is the soul of people. Romar Barden, artist. Black art has always existed. It just hasn't been looked for in the right places. Romar Barden, artist. The European traditions are not as interesting as before. Something else is waiting to be born. Romar Barden, artist. I am a man concerned with truth, not flattery, who shares a dual culture that is unwilling to deny the Harlem where I grew up or the Harlem of the Dutch master that contribute its element to my understanding of art. Romar Barden, artist. I create racial identities so far as the subjects are Negroes, but I have not created protest images because the world within the college, if it's authentic, retains the rights to speak for itself. Romar Barden, artist. I have chosen to art the life of my people as I know and feel it passionately and dispassionately. It is important that the artist identify that the self-reliance, hope, and courage of the people about him, for art must always go where energy is. Romar Barden, artist. If you're any kind of artist, you may miraculously journey and you can come back and make some statements in shapes and colors of where you were. Romar Barden, artist. Such devices as distortion of scales and proportion and abstract colorations are the very means through which I try to achieve a more personal expression. It is not my aim to paint about the Negroes in America as propaganda. It is precisely my awareness of the distortions required for the polytheistic that caused me to paint the life of my people as I know it. Romar Barden, artist. We look too much to museums. The sun comes up in the morning is enough. Romar Barden, artist. Well, it's like jazz. You do this and then you improvise. Romar Barden, artist. As the material evidence that remains us of our culture, of who we are, Mary Skemrick Campbell, arts administrator. Art must be realistic for me, whether sculpture or paint making. I have always wanted my art to service my people, to reflect us, to relate to us, to stimulate us, to make us aware of our potential. Elizabeth Catlett, artist. Progressive art can assist people to learn not only about the objective force at art in the society in which we live, but also about the intensely social character of their interior lives. Angela Davis, militant activist. Art is not simply work of art. It is the spirit that knows beauty, that has music in its flow and the color of sunsets in its handkerchief, that can dance on a flaming world that makes the world dance too. W.E.B. Du Bois, intellectual and activist. My sculpture ain't got much style. God don't want much style, but he gives you wisdom and speeds you along. William Edmondson, sculpture. The Europeans who went to Africa came back with modern art. What is more African than Picasso? Duke Ellington, composer and band leader. The ultimate is art is self-expression, not escape. Duke Ellington, composer and band leader. Picasso's Les Domiciles d'Agneau, the signature painting in the creations of Cubanism, contains as a testament to the shape influence of African sculptures and to the central role that African art played in the creation of modernism. Henry Louis Gates, Jr., scholar and critic. Art is a way of possessing destiny. Marvin Gaye, singer and composer. All art is communication of the art's ideas, sounds, and thoughts. Leon Hampton, vibrationist and band leader. A classical people deserve a classical art. Leon Hansberry, dramatist. I decided to paint to support my love of art, rather than art support me. Pamela Hayden, painter. And the Negro dancers who will dance like flames, and the singers who will continue to carry our song to all who listen. They will be with us in even greater numbers tomorrow. Langston Hughes, poet and writer. The Lord puts pictures in my head, and he means for me to paint them. Clementine Hunter, artist. The final measure of the greatness of all people is the amount and standard of the literature and art they have produced. James Weldon Johnson, writer and activist. It is the pure American Negro I am concerned with, aiming to show the natural beauty and dignity in the characteristic lip and the characteristic hair, bearing and manner, and I wish to show the beauty not so much to the white man as to the Negro himself. Scargent Johnson, sculpture. Thank you.
A black man walk. It's like rhythm and meter got up off the page and decided to move and glide with spirit. You ever see a black man walk in the room, Morris Cole style, like keep tap dancing? I'm here. In those steps and messages, and you have to listen carefully. They trying to kill me. Stop searching, frisk me. There are prayers in a black man's walk. Don't let them shoot me down where I'm standing. Don't let the white chalk lines find me. Don't let me die in the streets like an animal. I'm a man. I swear I'm a man. When a black man walks, a whole generation lives to see another day, another sunrise, another mouth to feed, another seed, another sacrifice saved, another poem, another hungry burning cross, another mother breathing in her son's ear. Move easy. Move quietly. Keep your head down, boy. It don't matter if you're 16 or 60. When a black man walks, he is always hunted. He is always animal. He is always standing out like a living corpse. He smells like a KKK appetizer. Nuggets of his own flesh dipped in his own blood. Ooh-wee! When a black man walks, he often finds white women walking closely behind him. But you can't blame a white sister for liking the way a black man walks. She understands some things and is cool with the fact that her babies will have nappy hair, even though she will not know how to comb it. When a black man walks, wait for it. Listen to the orchestra playing beneath his feet. Pay attention to the vibrations when he walks in a room. See how many faces change to fear in the presence of a black man. See how many women hold their purse so tightly their fingers grow numb. See how many men hide their eyes wishing the darkness would go away. Maybe choke itself to death. That ugly 2/3 human being, that next to nothing black dot, that useless prison black spot. When a black man walks, every day he is like Jesus, paranoid of crucifixion. Every day he is like Trayvon, knowing that his hoodie had nothing to do with his last breath. If only bullets could kill racism, poverty, and the traumas of slavery. You pay attention when a black man walks. You listen when a black man walks. His feet have a mind of their own, a compass, a homing device. 400 years of directions. Find your way home safely. Don't let Jim Crow steal your soul. Don't let gentrification lose your memory. Don't let police brutality castrate you. Do what your mama said do. Run, run, run when their teeth are already covered in blood. Do what your mama said do. Run, run, run when the black man walks. He ain't got time to walk. Death is always like, black men are the easiest to find. They are the strongest but the most fragile. They are the calm and the storm. They die like they expect to. When a black man walks, think of it as a masterpiece, a beautiful song that you may only hear once. Cherish it. You may never hear it again.
I'm reading a poem by Paul Laurence Dunbar, We Wear the Mask. We wear the mask that grins and lies. It hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. This debt we pay to human guile. With torn and bleeding hearts we smile, and mouth with myriad subtleties. Why should the world be overwise in counting all tears and sighs? Nay, let them only see us while we wear the mask. We smile, but oh great Christ, our cries to thee from tortured souls arise. We sing, but oh the clay is vile beneath our feet and long the mile. But let the world dream otherwise. We wear the mask.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you do or say will not matter at this point because your skin color has already confessed to the crime. You have the right to attorney, who will try his hardest to see that justice is served in a jury of our peers, aka our attorneys, who will have him not match 12 to 1. If you cannot afford an attorney, he won't be appointed to you free of charge because he's also underpaid. Do you understand these rights as they have been read to you? Whoa, 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 whoa. I see you reaching for your 9mm wallet. I see you reaching for your 38 caliber inhaler. Don't move. Stop breathing. You're puffing up your chest. I feel threatened. Is that a weapon?
Lay down, no. Face down, no. Face ground. Pow. Oops, I did it again. I'm a pop star. No, I'm a pop star. No, I'm a cop star. By the time I get back to the precinct, I'll be a rock star. Platform. I have more black names on trophies than BET award winners. Platform. They are going to honor me at the NYPD award dinner. Platform. They are going to throw me a parade. Platform. Because when I platform, they go to the grave. Black boys' tears fall on deaf white ears. Black mothers' tears keep graveyard grass green. Black men's bones are the gavel to which finalize false convictions. Wake up, black boys. It's time to declare war. I wonder how Trayvon Martin's mother feels that her son has a household name, but not a household body. I wonder if Freddie Gray's family can still say grace over their food, even though their prayers cannot stop the thief that robbed him of his last breath. I wonder if Tamir Rice died playing cops and rallies because he saw the former more innocent than the latter. I wonder if black mothers are only closer to God because they're steady having to lay breast to their only begotten sons. I wonder if black people are only dark because we're closer to the sun. Well, how many years will it take for us to become bulletproof because we're closer to the guns? I'm tired of going to funerals where babies are buried in bigger boxes than they used to put their toys in. I'm tired of not being able to tell my friends, see you later. We're steady practicing our goodbye words to each other. I'm tired because I'm not able to tell my girlfriend, let's wait till we're married. I'm afraid that she'll see me in a box before she sees me in a tuxedo. I wonder if America, when she wakes up and sees that black people ain't sleeping no more because the American dream is the African-American nightmare. I'm tired that laws are written as lullabies to black people And I'm forced to stay woke in this society. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired because I'm forced to stay woke in this society. And if I go back to sleep, I might stay asleep forever.
For our next reading, I'll be reading an excerpt from the Bullet to the Ballot, the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and Racial Coalition Politics in Chicago by Jacoby Williams. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was founded in Oakland, California by Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton in 1966. The organization began as a small group of young black men who conducted police patrols to eliminate police brutality in African American communities. The Panthers reasoned that police power exercised against black sections of American cities operated in the same manner as colonial powers did in policing colonized subjects. By staging confrontations with police, one historian of the Panthers notes, Newton and Seale sought to dramatize how a form of colonial power was actually deployed against black people in the urban areas of the U.S. under the auspices of policing. Encounters with police capsulated the Panthers into national prominence. Their storming of the California state legislature in May 1967 was reported in almost every major media outlet in America. Huey Newton's October 28th shootout with two officers, which resulted in the death of one officer and the wounding of Newton, led to his arrest and domestically and internationally influenced the Free Huey campaign. By 1968, the Black Panther Party was popular not only as a result of its defiance towards law enforcement, but also because its socialist ideology resonated with African American youth. The party echoed a statement by writer, poet, and activist James Baldwin. To be black and conscious in America is to be in a constant state of rage. Panthers believe the statement to be very true of black people in general in this country due to racism and the unequal distribution of wealth. The group's spokespersons often referred to as America as a fascist nation. They defined fascism as capitalism plus racism practiced by an open dictatorship and of finance capitalism. To Panthers, finance capitalism meant not only banks, trusts, and monopolies, but also people such as businessmen, demagogues, politicians, and police whom they identified as terrorists, reaping vengeance against the working class. The Black Panther newspapers and members speaking tours communicated the party's message and purpose to African American communities and helped the party establish branches in numerous cities. Fred Hampton was directed to introduce Panther ideology during a members tour stop in Chicago. Lenny Eggleston, a Panther from the LA chapter, was conducting a speaking tour for the party, as recalled by Joan Elbert, president of the Lutheran Human Relations Association, won Hampton over to the party's ideology. Elbert had been asked by Carl, the director of Lutheran Association, to house Eggleston, and Hampton was her neighbor. Elbert remembers, Eggleston was a volatile person and interesting, but a little intimidating. Not knowing what to do with this guy all day, I called Fred and asked if he could come over and talk to him. Fred did. They not only talked, they argued and shouted and debated philosophy and politics until 3 a.m. The next evening, several ministers sponsoring the evening's program, came to our house for dinner. Fred came too. At one point, Brother Lenny turned out to be one of the black pastors who happened to be wearing a clerical collar and asked him why he was wearing the white man's collar. Brother Lenny was a Muslim. Before the pastor could respond, Fred put his hand on Brother Lenny's shoulder and said quietly, "Don't put down a brother in front of the man. I thought that was very perceptive and fearless of Fred to speak up to this angry man who must have been twice his age." Thank you. I'll be back with more shortly.
Another poem called Black is Beautiful by Sharon D. Brown Rogers. Black is as beautiful as a bed of milky white clouds. Black is as beautiful as soft as a newborn's baby hair. Black is as beautiful as standing up for what is right. Black is as beautiful as trying on grandmother's classy hats. Black is as beautiful as me saying hi. Black is as beautiful as two sisters walking hand in hand. Black is as beautiful as waddling in a pond on a hot summer day. Black is as beautiful as holding your baby for the first time. Black is as beautiful as saying, I miss you. Black is as beautiful as going fishing with your dad. Black is as beautiful as calling your mother on her birthday. Black is as beautiful as two brothers playing basketball. Black is as beautiful as braiding your sister's hair. Black is as beautiful as grandma taking you to the park. Black is as beautiful to the sweet sound of a saxophone playing. Black is as beautiful as eating mom's never-failed caramel cake. Black is as beautiful as a bright rising sun. Black is as beautiful as a simple kiss on the forehead. Black is as beautiful as lilies on Easter morning. Black is as beautiful as saying, I love you. Black is me, and I am beautiful. Thank you.
Good evening, class. My name is Miss Clark. I'll be your your pre-cal teacher today, so get your pens and papers out. This lesson is titled Woke. This is a difficult function. How black people will never be a race placed in standard form. As the past 400 years, we have been seen as zeros. Yet we are not this only race from this parent function of destruction. Here's a graph. Now let's make the reflection. From the Native Americans to the Africans, the Spaniards conquered the natives and killing them off, then went and took the Africans. Wait. This isn't a history lesson. Too many math terms, so I guess this is a mathematical lesson. Yet I have a quick question. What union did you partake in? I'm white. I'm a full-blood Mexican. I'm sorry, guess what? Congratulations, you played yourself. You are a subset of the Africans and Native Americans. That blood is crossed over with theirs intersection. You were just a complex number. You would not have existed if it wasn't for the real and imaginary number. Us black people have forgotten that we used to be a set. Everybody went together. Asymptote world, we can never cross each other's axes, but if you rotate that 180 degrees, we'll all be matching. Yet they made us believe that we cannot be a maximum and that our limit is stopped in being constant is what we asked for. Yet this dilation might shock you. This extraneous solution that we will overcome is a lie. We are still decreasing as they give us these social media lies that we are increasing. We have been trying to switch our parabola from down to up. We have made it to this vertex we can't give up. Stuck in this interval notation, we are not out of luck. I am breaking. You are breaking. We are breaking. That second line of oppression. In behavior at its finest, we have left the negative infinity of rejection to the positive infinity of acceptance. These are our roots. We're here now, so accept it. These are your roots, so accept it. So stop looking at me like I'm an angle of depression. Stop writing me as a biconditional expression. You acting as if you saved my people from depression? In behavior at its finest, you only turned us into a damn monomial expression. You old discriminate of a quadratic. Your roots have been revealed. We made you who you are, you black too, so why the fuck haven't you been killed? You wanna add me to you, but subtract me from you. How is your life more important than mine when my life is important too? Exclusive, or you could just hold a gun to a brother, a mother, a daughter, a father, or a son's head. That's the expected value. That's just the odds against. Yet the odds were in your favor. Oh, no, wait, mess up. That was self-defense. So you see, people, I ain't come here to preach. I'm just the limit from the left. I just came here to teach. Beep. Oh, yeah, class dismissed.
Keep that going.
Up next for the African American read-in, we'll have Christopher Price. Mr. Price is a computer science major here at Murray State University.
I'll be reading a couple quotes from a book that I read that was Ways to Make Sunshine by Renee Watson. Well, the first quote was, "How you wear your hair is your choice, and no matter what you choose, it's not going to determine if you're beautiful or not. The only thing that will determine that is how you treat others." And the second quote that I have is, "Here's the thing about ice cream. No matter how sweet it is, no matter if it's given to you even when you aren't supposed to have it, no matter if you're told you can come back for seconds, it doesn't take away the sadness."
Ernestine Johnson.
They say I'm not the average black girl because I'm so well-spoken, poised, full of etiquette, a white man's token. You know, I remember my ex's mother telling me I didn't know how I was going to react when he brought home a black girl, but I like you because you talk so white. Well, when did me talking right equate to me talking white? They say I'm not the average black girl. No, not the average black girl, because the pigment in my skin is just a shade lighter than that black girl over there. You know the black girl over there, the black girl with the nappy hair, the black girls whose elbows can't skip a day without lotion, whose hearts and heads are filled up with self-hate and bottled up emotion. The cocoa brown girls who have to face society every day and be tough, because no matter how good they straighten their hair, their good is still not good enough. Oh, see, luckily for me, I don't fall in that category. See, they say I'm not the average black girl because I speak with so much class, and I don't have too much, but just enough ass, and not too much, but just enough pizzazz. You know, just a little bit of attitude, because you don't want to come off as one of those average black girls and come off as rude. You know, popping their gum and shaking their neck. Yeah, because those black girls get, like, no respect. But see, luckily for me, I get a pass, because the melanin in my skin matches that brown paper bag, and my father, brother, and men that I date pants don't sag. And when I speak, my tongue pronounces every syllable. And the combed part down the middle of my hair is naturally visible. Oh, it must be a weave, but she must be mixed, because we all know the average black girl ain't got that good. Or when I walk into a room full of white men, they all stare. It must be the long lengths of my unaverage black girl hair. See, they say I'm not the average black girl because I corrected the professor when he used the word conversate. Converse. The word is converse. And in case you didn't get the memo, there are now 8, not 9 planets in the universe. And when you're watching the numbers on your stocks move up and down, remember Oklahoma, in a small town where one of the first Wall Streets was a black Wall Street that got mysteriously burned down. Oh, they say I'm not the average black girl. Well, let's flip the script and rewind this, repaint the lines that had been blurred over time, because the average black girl that I know, see, the average black girl that I know made 19 trips through the Underground Railroad to free the slaves. Sat on segregated buses, refused to get up and pave new waves. See, the average black girl that I know were Egyptian queens like Hatshepsut and Nitocris, who were ruling dynasties and whole armies of men. Excuse me while I set fire to this poem on my pen, because I am tired. Tired of the stereotypes black girls have fallen into because of American mentality. Oh, but not half as tired as Ella Baker, Diane Nash, Septima Poinsett Clark. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, Daisy Bates, Anna Arnold Hedgeman, and Dorothy Height are far more tired than I am. But do you think the ones who say I'm not the average black girl even give a damn? No. So pardon me if I can't openly accept your compliments. Pardon me if I can't openly accept your compliment. It's just the average black girl that I know. The average black girl that I know had courage that surpassed her every fear and fought for justice and equality year after year. So as I construct these words, pardon me as I shed a tear, because I'm not half the black girl she was. I am not half the black girl she was. See, there's a minor clause. See, she was out there fighting, breaking, and changing laws. So I bow down to my black queen standing in the merit of her work. And as America's society continuously throws these supercilious words unto me, I say no. I'm not the average black girl. I can only aspire to be. Thank you.
That's Ernestine Johnson. Be busy.
Up next for the African American read-in, we'll have Miss Caruth Cottrell from the Jesse D. Jones College of Science, Engineering, and Technology here at Murray State University.
My poem today is entitled, My Color Doesn't Define Me, written by myself, Caruth Cottrell. I am a strong black woman, you see. I can be anything from A to Z. Education was not easy for me. Sitting in the classroom, I was overlooked, you see, because others not my color was always chosen over me. But that didn't stop me. For paying attention in class, I listened, studied, and worked twice as hard so that I can be competitive and not just barely pass. So in life, when someone tells you you can't make it, tell them to look around in the world and see that others like me have made it from A to Z. They made it. Architect, barber, chemist. They made it doctor, engineer, fireman. They made it golfer, hairdresser, investigator. They made it janitor, kinesiologist, lawyer. They made it mechanic, nurse, optometrist. They made it policeman, quilter, radiologist. They made it singer, teacher, umpire. They made it veterinarian, waiter, x-ray tech. They made it yoga instructor and zoologist. Therefore, color doesn't define your success. God gave us all the opportunity to be equal, not less. So I hope now when you look at me, you realize that my color doesn't define me. Thank you.
Me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom just 'cause I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like suns and like moons, with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high. Still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just 'cause I laugh. As if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, I'll rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh, does it come as a surprise that I dance? As if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain, I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, naturally, there I go rising.
And last but certainly not least, for our African American read-in today, we have Dr. Brian Clardy. Dr. Clardy is Associate Professor of History for the Murray State University History Department.
Thank you. I'll be reading from the poetry of the great Paul Laurence Dunbar. Just a quick little word about Dunbar. His poetry speaks directly to the hurts, the hopes, to the dreams of our people. And he oftentimes wrote poetry within the black dialect. Some of his critics had a problem with that, but Dunbar's poetry speaks to who we are and where we are at this time. And Dunbar is certainly one of the more authentic poets of the Black Arts Movement. I want to read to you a poem called Two Songs. Two Songs. A bee that was searching for sweets one day through the gate of a rose garden happened to stray. In the heart of a rose he hid away and forgot his bliss, the light of day. And sipping honey he buzzed in song. Though day was waning, he lingered long, for the rose was sweet, so sweet. A robin sits plumbing in his ruddy breast, and a madrigal sings to his song the love in her nest. Oh, the skies, they were blue, the fields, they were green, and the birds in your nest will soon be seen. She hangs on his words with the thrill of love and chirps to him as he sits above, for the song is sweet, so sweet. A maiden was out on a summer's day, with the winds and the waves and flowers at play, and she met with a youth of gentle air, with the light of the sunshine on his hair. Together they wandered the flowers among. They loved, and loving they lingered long. For to love is sweet, so sweet. Bird of my lady's bower, sing her a song. Tell her that every hour, all the day long, thoughts of her come to me, filling my brain with warm ecstasy of love's refrain. Little bird, happy bird, being so near, where e'en the slightest word thou mayest hear. Seeing her glancing eyes, sheen of her hair, thou art in paradise. Would I were there. I am so far away, thou art so near. Plead with her, birdling gay, plead with her, my dear. Rich be thy recompense, fine be thy fee, if though thine eloquence she hearken me. Thank you.
Okay, that wraps it up. That was our last person to speak, and I want to end this by the last quote I'm going to read by Toni Morrison, which said, Black people's grace has been what they do with language. And so we've spent some time today sharing that language, and we hope that those of you who were able to watch today enjoyed this read-in, and we'll see you again next year. And hopefully you will be able to participate in some of our events that we have coming up, particularly our symposium on segregation and recreation that's coming up on the 25th, end of the month. You definitely want to be a part of that. And we have a plethora of events that you can participate in. Just go to Murray State's webpage, murraystate.edu/OMI. That's murraystate.edu/OMI. Again, I'm Dr. S.G. Carthel. I'm the Executive Director for Multicultural Initiative, Student Leadership, and Inclusive Excellence. And we are here to say thank you for tuning in, and go Racers.